so they lose out for it.
Wow.
Either way, though, double AD carry bands coming out from JDG, so the Sivir B1 off the board. We'll see if there's a couple of junglers that they might like. Again, still the plethora of mid laners that these two teams can take if they want to. Talia, Rise, Annie still open as well.
I feel like normally when we see miss bans, it comes with a remake a lot of the times. I was surprised that we actually are going to keep rolling, but it seems like that is on the table as Weibo seemingly just making a small mental mistake after already being down 1-0 in this series. It's going to be Xiaohu's Talia, which we mentioned can be very strong and something that he is very good at. But yeah, we'll see what JDG have to match up against it. The Annie for Scout would be a pretty good answer.
Again, still got things like the Gwen available. You've got your pick of junglers as well. I don't expect them to match mid lane here just yet. As we see the Xayah locked in, it might just be Xayah Rakan here for Peyz and Zhuo. Give them a really good, powerful bot lane duo to try and play out this game with. Maybe theorizing that this Vi gets locked in, but now they've sort of prevented Tian from going for Vi, unless they want to try and focus somewhere else on the map.
Maybe it could be an option for Xun here on that third pick as we continue to wait to see what Weibo do want to play. Obviously, JDG picked the Pantheon in game number 1. That means that Pantheon to Leo combo that we saw quite often at the start of the split will not be available this game specifically. Lights Ezreal, though, has been something that he's been able to have some high success on, and so excited to see him play that one as they're going full poke lane in response to the Xayah Rakan.
Yeah, I like that. It's a pretty typical answer, right? The Ezreal outranges the Xayah. The Xayah can get poked out quite easily by the Karma as well as Ezreal. It means that Peyz definitely going to have a much more tricky time of things. And I mean, it might even... I hesitate to say it, so we'll wait for it a little bit. But Peyz going to struggle to get auto attacks down in this game. So we'll see if he's able to augment his build path to reflect that. JDG, though, sticking tried and true here with this 5v5 style of composition. We know that Xayah in the late game is going to do damage, and Annie as well to set up for that. Still feel like they're missing out on a little bit of damage that they might need. So looking at Xiaoxu here to see maybe if he can get his hands on his Renekton. Maybe we get to see Xun on a bit of a carry jungler as well. But Weibo Gaming here with this poke, with this early game, would like to see them go for a jungler who's nice and aggressive, nice and mobile early on to really try to leverage these hopefully pushing lanes and hopefully try to make the most of what should be a very winning bot side.
Because when you lock yourself in Annie in the mid lane for Scout, it gives you a lot of aggressive options here for Xun. Things like the Xin Zhao are still available as well. Maybe that is why JDG go for a Trundle ban here in the second phase. Still a lot of options, of course, still on the table for both of these players. And, you know, towards the top side of the map, where we're still waiting to see a response. Curious to see what we see out of Breathe as well. This is a guy that was making all-pro ballots as recently as last split for us here on the LPL English broadcast, but has not necessarily had the same level of success full through here in split number 3, and another player that is going to have to step up a little bit if they both want to win this series and also, you know, continue to go on that Worlds run.
Yep, again, to reiterate, I do think that the power of Weibo lies in their solo laners. I do think that Breathe may be the most consistent part of Weibo through this split. Xiaohu a close second, maybe more standout performances from Xiaohu, but equally lower lows as well. Whereas Breathe just seems to be that player who never really seems to be the reason that they lose the game, and occasionally finds reasons that they can be the victors as well. Looking at the rest of these bans, though, Poppy taken off the board, Sion taken off the board. Again, looking at maybe some of those more Stonewall top laners that allows for a Breathe Yorick to come in. Maybe looking for that carry style of top side. We've still got Gwen a pick that's been largely left by the wayside in this series so far. Maybe that's the pick that Xiaoxu will look for.
Talk about that Renekton a little bit earlier on, and definitely something that he's been comfortable on throughout the season. Full comfort here, potentially? No, it looks like instead there is that Vi, and you can point and click onto the Ezreal, and you will follow him throughout the Arcane Shift and everything. Question is whether you want to do that or not is another one, but we'll see what Xun can do.
There is a timing, right? Like, you know how you can buffer Tristana Rocket Jump with Blitz hooks? You can buffer Vi ulti with Ezreal. So there is a timing there where you can actually get out of the Vi ult, and especially if you're near terrain, you can make your way out of that Vi ulti and buy a little bit of space. I'm not particularly sold on this Vi just yet, especially since if you're having to go through an Unraveled Earth, that's going to make your life even harder to get onto that backline and really perform and do that damage that we're looking at. I do like this idea, though, from Weibo. We talked about this in the first round of picks. They've got really winning bot sides. They've got very aggressive, very pushing lanes. leverage that, find a jungler who can make the most of that, and Xin Zhao does this exact job where we can look to put the Vi in the dirt, we can look to punish early on, and I mean, I think that Weibo here, if they can get off to a slight early lead, they should be able to run away with this game. JDG round out their composition with Vi Cassante. I'm looking at the damage in this game, Grapes, for JDG, and it's so heavily focused onto the Xayah that if Peyz ever gets shut down, if he gets taken out by a Renekton flash stun, by a little bit of damage coming through from the Xiaohu combo, this game could just be over before it even starts.
Another composition very much reliant on Peyz, but you know, if you're gonna rely on one player on JDG, that is who I would put my cards into. A lot of setup around this Xayah pick in particular, and you know, as Xayah, you have a lot of opportunities to escape some of these engages that you already discussed, like a Renekton, a Taliyah, or a Xin Zhao. But I agree with you. The top side of Weibo's composition going to be very strong. The bot lane's going to be able to push out early on. The first 8 to 15 minutes of this game are going to be very interesting to see what Weibo do, because they decided to play things on the slower side last time around, and it did not work for them very well.
They don't have that luxury this time. I do think that if we get to 30-40 minutes and we reach that at parity, it's then going to be this Xayah comp that probably comes out on top. There are some good elements of peel here. There are good ways to get the Xayah to safety between Rakan Redemption, Molten Shield, the Cassante being able to take somebody off of you as well. There are plenty of tools to keep Peyz alive, but if Peyz can't do the damage, that doesn't necessarily matter. And I think that getting this Xayah in the dirt early is the name of the game for Weibo.
Still a lot of series left to be played, but if Weibo can execute their game to draft correctly, could be looking at this one getting evened up and, you know, making JDG sweat a little bit. But if not, hey, we could see this one be a little bit of a quicker night. It's JDG looking to pull off this upset here in game number 2 of the lower bracket quarters.
敌军还有30秒到达战场，碾碎他。
Level 1 setup here.
Could be a stun into the brush here if Scout takes W level 1.
Xiaohu does get stunned up, combined with that grand entrance. That's already a flash from the Taliyah. It could just be his doom anyway, as Peyz will finish off first blood. However, Tian has jumped in as well. Try to finish off a little bit more on the Scout, but it's a 5v4. Weibo do not have a response. That is an easy kill to JDG to start things off.
It's like they're listening to me, Grapes. How do you win this game? It's get gold onto Peyz. How do Weibo lose this game? It's if Peyz gets fed and they can't kill him, well, guess what happens? Immediately, first blood goes to the Xayah now. Does look like they're actually all able to get back to base, and I think the bot lane will be able to get out in time. Scout going to have to teleport so that he doesn't miss experience. That's really a bit of an important detail there, as it means that now no TP in the mid lane means that Xiaohu can take some pretty wild trades up against the Yanni, and especially when you take W level 1, it really does hamper your trading capabilities.
Fascinating way to open up this second game here, Rude. Is now Peyz going to get himself an early kill, just coming at the cost of Ghost. Going to very much be happy with that. Looks like Light and Crisp are already going to have priority in this 2v2 anyway. Now with the brown bag boots, Peyz can maybe dodge away from some of these skill shots a little bit better and, you know, get off to the races a little bit more.
Yeah, making sure that you're able to get away from the minions that the Karma's going to try to queue, making sure that you're not getting hit by these Mystic shots, definitely a little bit more likely, but you can see that this should be a rough laning phase down in the bot side for JDG. Weibo's goal is to try to punish the fact that this Xayah Rakan were taken blind and hopefully be able to do better things with it.
But not here at the start, obviously. You know, looks like the early push is still coming in. Peyz and Joel were also late to lane because of the fact that they reset and, you know, got a couple of items, the boots specifically for Peyz. So just now is the Xayah hitting level 2. If you take a look at some of the win-loss records, and very curiously, the Xin Zhao for Tian looks like it didn't actually have a lot of wins on its book. So, you know, very curious way that this draft is kind of, you know, reticulated so far.
And I think that that's a little bit of a symptom of Tian almost, where I feel like his split has been defined by his inability to successfully close games out. There have been a lot of games where he's been taking off and starting out really, really strongly, and they're going to need that in this game here. But where he's stepped a bit too far forward, cost his team potentially the match itself by just stepping into a spot where he's not allowed to, by being in a position that isn't mandated by how his team are playing. And Now Jun actually able to complete this cross clear. We can see that on this top side, he's first one to that bot side or to that next crab. But you can see down on this bot lane here, Grapes, it's looking pretty disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, the kill's going to feel nice. However, losing a bunch of CS under tower will not. And with Tian here on the bottom side, makes it very difficult for JDG to push forward at all. I think a dive would be very much an aggressive play, and I don't think that's going to happen. And especially because the ward is going to be spotting out Tian here. He's canceled there by Zhuo. Nice job. But yeah, the pressure is going to continue to mount and mount, as you can already see the 5 CS lead existing in light side.
And I mean, if you're looking at this from the way that the bot lane are being played out, I'm loving what Crisp has just done there. Pulled the wave so that he makes sure and sort of ensures that this wave crashes into his own AD carry. You can see he loses out on 2 melee creeps worth of experience, where we'd like to think that Peyz is probably going to lose out on a lot more when he goes back to base. You can see Jun's even here so that they can actually crash this wave, and even in a 3 versus 2, they might fancy their chances, I'm going to be honest.
I mean, the poke is just ridiculous at this point, and Zhuo's already below half HP. Might even try to maybe hold the wave here for a little bit. No, they will eventually let it get to under the turret, at least some of it. But yeah, nice denial so far from Weibo's bot lane. They're going to have to keep it up, though, as this game continues to go, because already Peyz does have those Berserker Greaves and will continue to be the primary carry in this game for his team.
Of course, Renekton versus Cassante, we saw this matchup. I think this was the 2024 special almost, where we got to see these 2 teams, or 2 top laners. Pretty much every single game on the Rift before we had Fearless, and Flash in mid lane.
The Xiaoxu going to be followed up here by that.
Oh, another flash.
Sean. There's a ton of CC onto the flashless Talia, and that's an easy kill picked up for JDG. Peyz and Zhuo rotating to the mid lane off of their base instead of going back down towards light are going to be able to claim another kill for themselves.
And JDG did what Weibo couldn't. They capitalized on the fact that there was no flash on a target. Xiaohu's flash just now coming back up. They commit 3 summoner spells to taking down the Talia in the mid lane, but they get the kill, importantly. It's another little bit of gold into Peyz's pocket, who's walked straight his way towards the Berserker boot so that he can get around the map a little bit faster, free himself from this bot lane torture that he's in. And you hope to see that from here, that life for the Xayah probably going to get a little bit better.
We'll see. I mean, right now, Light has been just hammering away at that turret. Already has a plate for himself and a 12 CS lead. But yes, rotating Peyz and Zhuo out of that lane is going to be helpful. As you see, Zhuo getting hit a little bit there by Tian. And, you know, with the bot lane rotated mid, should be easy priority for the Dragon on Weibo's side, which is a small respite that they will be able to collect.
And you're sort of looking, you're hoping as well that in the interim, Weibo are able to find some semblance of stability, because they've lost 2 kills now. They're really struggling almost to get this game off the ground, and that's what we need from them here. They've got this early game aggressive composition where they need to use that level 6 from the Talia to make plays happen, where they use the early game of Ezreal Karma to push an advantage, but so far the gold between the AD carries is dead even. The gold overall is a little bit favoured for JDG. He's even walking in to try and utilise this early game Xin Zhao, but he's also down in gold.
See Weibo finally trying to make a play here. Xiaohu goes in with the Weaver's Wall to try to contest this second spawn of the blue buff, but Sun is able to pick it up anyway. And now it's the thing here with Weibo's composition that we talked about in the draft route. They have pushing lanes, they have strong champions in the early game, but they have not been able to find any kills off of it so far.
It really does feel like JDG were just sort of, they made this play on the exact time that they knew that Xiaohu's flash was going to come back up, where they sort of committed so many people there and said, look, this Talia's got no flash, we'd be foolish not to try and take her down, and they finally did make that happen. It's about looking forward though, and what's going to come next? Well, we've got the Grubs in 10 seconds time spawning up in this top side, and looking out at that minimap once again, TP from one side. I've got a TP coming in, I've got walking out to the top lane as well from Zhuo. This is looking like all hands on deck for the Grubs as well.
However, we do see Tian in the area, and finally Light actually going for a reset. As here we go onto the top side of the map. Xiaoxu, I don't think he had mana to go all out, and that could be a bit of a concern as Breathe pops to Dominus. If Xiaoxu had enough for that R button, he would have sent him underneath the tier 1 turret. Instead, it is Breathe surviving with his flash still up, with Tian now starting off the Grubs.
And no TP for Xiaoxu either means that he probably can't get back to this plate in time. He's going to have to walk his way out the long ways, and Weibo Gaming actually should be quite happy with how they find themselves in this current position. They're going to take 2, probably get all 3 of these grubs without actually any sort of contest. Doesn't look like they're losing out anything bot lane. They even get push in mid lane, so
wow.
A really big win for Weibo here.
A big break for Weibo Gaming there. It seemed like JDG were in prime position to get pressure around those grubs, starting off with the kill on to breathe. But 10 mana, I believe it was the difference for Xiaoxu to prevent sending that Renekton straight over the wall right into their bot lane's arms. And with him surviving, and it meant that Shun wasn't able to do much afterwards, and that those are the grubs going over to Weibo. That's going to be really big pushing power later on in this game.
And maybe even through the early parts of this game as well. We talked about the fact that they need to start snowballing, they need to find these plates. They've got 5 minutes now to farm a little bit of extra gold, use this Ezreal Karma to hopefully try and put an advantage down in those structures. I really think that having Light in the mid lane is probably costing them quite a little bit here. They don't get as much time to push out that wave, and especially without Karma by his side, Light here, not necessarily vulnerable, but he definitely can't push as fast, can't make the most of these grubs. You can see that where they can is with Chris down on the bot side. Xiaohu pushes away very quickly. With extra damage from the Karma, maybe enough to try to find the burst onto Scout, but everybody's just recalling, and if Weibo take the grubs and do nothing with them, then JDG can just be happy that nothing's happened.
JDG, man, night and day kind of throughout the playoffs. Sometimes they look like this, other times, who knows? You go 5 games against Edward Gaming, but when this team is at its full force, who knows what potentials can exist here with this squad of 5. It feels like we have not seen them fully hit their stride for an extended period of time. But hey, you see a team like JDG starting to deliver. You see what BLG has been able to do ever since Beishuan has been slotted back in. After so much time of us being worried about what the LPL was going to look like, it seems like now a lot of teams are fully locking in for the postseason.
And we'd hope so as well. I mean, looking at the fact that we have international looming as well, and I went to MSI to go and see how AL would do, and they looked so good, but the fact that they're in the lower bracket already either speaks to the fact that the LPL can contend at these international events, and hopefully we see one of these 2 teams there with them, or that the overall curve of our split has been a little bit weaker and on that downward trend. But I mean, looking at this series and how well we look at this JDG composition, I feel like of players, Peyz not making it to an international is a massive deal just as an outright point.
I mean, it was last year, right, when this team had 5 different players, but still, the level of expectation that was on that super team that was formed, only for them to get upset by Weibo in that 5-game series. And they were a team that really nobody believed in terms of qualifying for that World Championship. And so, obviously, not the same players, but, Peyz trying to do what Ruler couldn't here on this roster is a fun storyline. And, of course, the organization, who has such a high level of expectations for success, is going to want to make it back to Worlds. And there's has not found a ton of success, at least so far, but it'll all be remedied if they're finally able to break things open and make it there as either that 3rd or 4th seed.
Second dragon of the game here for JDG as they look to start it up and find their first neutral objective in this match. Weibo, though, sniffing around.
Yeah, takes it down, and now Xiaohu could be in a little bit of trouble, but a really nice quickness, and he's going to turn the engage right back onto Light. He already had to use both of his summoner spells, but the Ezreal is alive, at least for the time being. Meanwhile, Xiaoxu is getting caught out, now 1v5 into the midst of Weibo's composition. Gets Seismic shoved back, but there's no Unraveled Earth to stun him up, and so the Xante is going to live for now as JDG now trying to retreat. Peyz, though, with a flash into the Blade Caller, is going to lock down 2, and the Timbers will take down Tian. All right, after 1-0 in favor of JD Gaming. Breathe is still very healthy, still able to heal up very nicely as Xiaoxu's looking to chase down Chris. In goes Zhuo, but he will go to his doom. And 3-man and Tofo strikes come out from Xiaoxu. It's an all-out brawl in the bottom lane, and JDG are dropping still. But Xiaoxu jumps forward. Pathmakers onto Light, and it's a 4v3 with only Xiaoxu standing for Weibo.
Xiaohu's looking, though. He's got no mana, goes onto the Unraveled Earth. He will fall, and it's an ace for JDG. They take down all 5 members of Weibo, our first fight of the game, and it's another one that JDG take.
On the slimmest of margins, but an ace nonetheless for JD Gaming as their advantage continues to grow. As we need to take another look at that one, Rude, because there were so many little intricacies there that we could talk about. Ultimates were saved for the perfect moments. Peyz had a beautiful flash, but it starts here with a really nice crescent guard from Tian to try to separate things, and Xiaohu able to get out of it very nicely.
And not just get out of it either, he burns double sums from Light. He gets the cleanse out of him. Flash burned a little bit earlier as well. But this whole time, Xiaoxu buying so much time, so much space on the K'Sante, actually doing this tanking thing very, very well. Flash is right at the end, Summon a Heal comes through. But it's this chase that JDG think they're on the losing side of until Peyz turns it back around. Flash on Tian, low HP onto Crisp as well. And again, it's credit to Breathe for trying to do so much work, do what he can, but I really like the heads-up play from Jun as he flashes in, but we're fighting once again on live.
Yeah, stun onto Xiaoxu already. Tian popping the Crescent Guard to knock back the K'Sante, but it's going to be Tian himself who gets sent right to his doom. As Shun will pick up yet another kill off of an aggressive invade from Weibo altogether.
Well, Light did get the blue buff, however, it cost them his jungler's life, so you can decide whether or not you think that's worth it or not, whether Tian goes for a little wander to see if he can pick up that blue himself. We will wait and see. What can JDG do with this time, though? 20 seconds until that Herald spawns, maybe get some vision down on that top side, but, I mean, I'm looking as well. I'll just quickly have a little play with some of our tools here. Shout out to our producer, Kai, for this. Taking a quick look, we've got wards all the way here already, down on that bot side, and there's not really anything that we need to be worried about as JDG walk on in.
Meanwhile, JDG, right here onto Chris. As you mentioned, another kill
all
is
the
picked
vision
up as Peyz is the one to go on a killing spree here. Seismic Shove does not land onto Shun, but here comes Breathe with the Dominus already popped. One more auto is going to take down Shun, but it's going to come at the cost of Light once again as the bot lane for Weibo Gaming is already out of the picture. Xiaohu has to dodge away from the Seismic Shove, should be able to get on out of this one nicely, and JDG get another 2 kills. Their jungler's down, which means it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get the Rift Herald.
Because they've got this pre-existing vision, they know exactly who they're walking into. There were 3 people and 3 wards that they had got Weibo scouted out on. They take down Chris, they're able to take down Light off the back of this as well. And that just extends that gold lead even further. Now Scout, though, he's the focus.
I guess Weaver's wall cut out, but Xiaohu's taking a lot of damage in response, and Breathe does not find a stun until right about now. The tether lands from Chris, but Xiaoxu is helping and doing the work to make it at least for 1-for-1, and he's still going all out. A 3-man Q3 is going to set up beautifully for Peyz, who's going to clean house here in the fight and pick himself up a double kill with another one going to Xiaoxu as well.
Xiaoxu played this fight incredibly. He hops over to keep Scout alive for as long as possible. Triple and Tofu Strike sets up for the Peyz call, and it's a massive route from him as well. This JD composition is thriving on all cylinders in game number 2, Grapes. They had a standout game number 1, and now in this game number 2, where fighting seems to be a bit more prevalent, they are coming out swinging.
6-0-6. For Peyz on the Xayah with Xiaohu and the Rakan by his side. As we take a look at this replay, Scout maneuvering this fight rather well, but it was Xiaoxu the one to buy so much space for him.
Yeah, it's about giving him that shield first of all. Crisp and Xiaohu, importantly. Xiaohu can't step forward to do damage to the Yanni until that ulti from Xiaoxu has been utilized. Then you can see he's just doing so much damage. That Omnivamp that comes through, turning himself into the Bruiser from the All Out. He's just so powerful. Able to constantly heal, Grass Procs coming in as well, and you know the K'Sante memes can reign true for even longer.
Yeah, maybe 300 years here on this one, as the Rift Herald has now been popped in the mid lane. JDG opening their gold lead up to 4,000, soon to be 5. As that tier 1 is taken out, they're going to send Shun down towards the bottom lane, where Scout has been caught out a little bit, Breathe rather low, but he will end up picking up that kill onto the Yanni. So Scout finally getting caught out a little bit, but it's all a setup, as in comes Shun with the Rift Herald. Not going to hit the tower, but will hit the Renekton instead to make it a 1-for-1 extended on the bottom side.
Drake is live hit, but you can see that JDG, they want more from the play than just the Dragon. Looking for this tier 1 turret, looking to once again complete that outer turret sweep. Look at the top lane though. Xiaoxu is in that top lane, split pushing, securing himself hopefully a tier 2 turret to get gold onto their mid lane. He's 2-4-2 in this game, but with those grubs, you'd like to think he can work his way through it, but Jun's here.
So Scout got picked off on the bottom side. Xiaohu in some trouble up top. Shun with that Conqueror proc still has that ultimate available, then will use the cease and desist. It's all too easy here for the JDG jungler as Xiaohu goes down for the 5th time this game.
2 items. Jun is an absolute fiend, and there's no chance that just a Seraphs on Xiaohu has got the ability to take down this fight. Scout here using Phase Rush to kite out the Renekton beautifully. Gets a little bit baited in, thinking he can go for the kill, and that Dominus proc into Tian walking forward does end up signing his own death sentence. A little bit awkward as we see both of the supports missing Redemption wildly, but does sort of keep the fight a little bit more interesting as Jun's able to come in once again, 1 round of the Renekton, and I think that this Vi actually a massive menace here.
Okay. I was going to say maybe some bad habits for him for Scout. He will be able to live there with the help of the Spellbook Teleport from Joao as a dragon. The second one, I should say, picked up for JDG in contrast. As they're up now 10 kills, almost 5,000 gold. And the Otacon hasn't even spawned yet. I mean, this is domination from JDG against a composition in Weibo's Brood that, again, wanted to do some stuff in the early game, but just never found the right opportunity.
No, exactly, and I do want to highlight that this composition for Weibo can still function. As this game gets later, the more the composition from JDG relies on Peyz. So if they can kill him, great. The second, though, that they fail to do that is the second that this game gets really, really difficult for them.
Haven't done it yet, and I don't know if they'll be able to, because Peyz is particularly powerful at this point in the game. 2.5 items already for him. For that, likely an Infinity Edge second, unless we go for some other iteration of a build. Regardless, this guy's going to be very hard to kill. I mean, there's not a ton of point-and-click CC, as you talked about in the draft, and as soon as one of those stuns comes out, he can use his Featherstorm. He has Zhuo to help peel for him. Very good protect the Xayah composition that JDG have.
Atacon now down on this bot side, and we will see if they can protect Peyz, as he does miss a cannon minion there, so -1's in the chat for that one. But I think that for JDG, they are so far ahead that just ripping any objective seems like the right idea. Any fight is a good fight. They can always have mid prio when the Atacon's so far down. They can also always get bot prio, and you can see Jun's already half HP. Xiaoxu.
He's a level up on the Talia right now. That's how powerful Jun has become in this game, or maybe how weak Xiaohu is at this point. See now the tier 2 getting taken down rather low, and the Otacon continuously going to be a threat as JDG starting it without Jun even being in the area.
Yeah, they're just playing this game of tug of war almost, where they're just looking to see, okay, let's pull Weibo this way, and then the second they come on over, we'll start to do the Atacon, and it's simple, but it's really well managed by JDG here. Shot Barrage goes through as sort of a passing glance almost to see if they could try to take a steal. Not successful in that venture. Flash burned by Xiaohu as well. We did see that in the picture-in-picture. Well played by Jun, who is on this Vi having a monster performance in game number 2.
And you can talk about, again, just, it's not against any specific team really, right? But Jun just wanting to be able to prove himself, was on BLG last year, had gotten replaced multiple times actually in a row. And here on this JDG team, a fresh start. He's been the starter the entire year. And we feel like has been rather consistent. It's just the rest of his team has not been at times. And so seeing him perform at such a high level at this point in this series, against a team that, was at Worlds just a year ago, definitely very promising and exciting to see out of a player like Jun.
And I do want to sort of draw your attention to the mid lane once again as sort of a running trend for this series that for the last few years it has been Xiaohu who's getting the better of Scout in these big ticket matches. This is a do or die series in the grand finals for these two organizations. Yes, there's still a shot at Worlds for both of them, but importantly they would like to get their hands on a trophy and like to put themselves in another chance to face up against AL or IG, whoever it is in the rest of the lower bracket, continue this run. For the time being, though, it's Scout looking to pave the way for a new narrative to come through in the battle of these two legendary LPL mid laners. As previously, he'd been the one who'd been losing out in this matchup. Game number 2, he's put himself on Annie duty, a mid laner who so frequently finds herself behind the curve, but even in that spot, he's up in levels, might not be up in gold, but looks like he's doing absolutely fine in this game and in game number 1 as well.
He doesn't need to be up in he doesn't have to be up in gold in this game. He's Annie. He just throws down the Tibbers, uses the Malignant Stun, and allows for Jun to jump in and then Peyz to do the dirty work in the backline. I mean, I think Scout kind of perfectly doing what this Annie has to do with this composition. As overall JDG finding some success with their mid laner this time around. Interesting point that you bring up there in this matchup between the mid laners, Rude. Xiaohu and Scout, you think of them as these true titans in the mid lane of the LPL. You know, the international champions twice for Xiaohu, once for Scout, but it was at Worlds. But it's been a while since they've lifted the domestic trophy. It was back in 2021 summer when Scout won with EDG, 22 spring when Xiaohu won with RNG. Almost 3 years for both of these legendary players to lift the trophy, and only one of them is going to have the opportunity to keep that dream alive in this split specifically by the end of it.
And as we broach 24 minutes, we've got a dragon spawning in 8 seconds time. You can see that Xun really not too fearful at all. Stepping onto the Renekton, who of all the champions, maybe the one that the Vi going to struggle to dice with the most. But Drake has spawned. There's a 5k gold lead for JDG, I expect. They should just be able to take this. But Weibo, you can see them sniffing around as well. Do they want to take this fight? Surely not. No.
The dragon's already gone. No need to make a bad situation worse, since Light might have just done so. He has to use the cleanse and shift away. Prevent Scout from laying down the teddy bear on his head. And so it will be Weibo just ceding over Infernal Soul Point to JDG.
I mean, it's a good cleanse, but why are we there in the first place? You have to connect with your team if you want to try and walk up to try and find fights, but no, he doesn't have that. Tian, though, walking into Xun.
Maybe a potential catch here. Breathe actually popping the Dominus to try to just close the gap onto Xun, but unable to find a stun onto anybody, and that's just a wasted R button here for Breathe. But it will be Xun flashing away as a cost, so not the worst situation in the world. That's going to be a pretty important summoner spell for Xun.
Yeah, Peyz ghosted as well. That's a really big tool for a hyper carry. To not have that ghost up and ready in these fights is a pretty big deal. But you can see the Baron now live. Xiaohu here, ready to try to start this fight off. Xiaohu nice and high on HP. Maybe he can be the one to make the difference.
Tian getting knocked up, then cease to desist onto him. Already has to pop the Crescent Guard with Light now just joining the fight, but it's already going to be before his jungler goes down, as Xun is going to pick up the first kill, and Peyz is flashing into the backline of Weibo Gaming. Already a double kill into the Vi's hands, and that should be an easy team fight win right as the Baron spawns.
And there's just no way for Weibo to take these fights. Their composition thrived in the early game, but they're down 5k gold. We're 25 minutes into this one. Xiaohu's diving.
All out onto Light, who, remember, doesn't have a cleanse available just yet. He's able to use the flash. He shifts over the wall, and he's at 1 HP in his own jungler, and so is Scout. But finally, Topo Strikes will take it down this Ezreal from the hands of Xiaoxu, as JDG able to have their cake and eat it too. They win a fight mid, they get the tier 2, and pick up the Baron, all on the same sequence.
Yeah, and that cake's after a nice 4-course meal as well. They've just been eating so good so far in this series, Grapes, where they take the Baron. They're going to be able to walk down mid lane, crack open that inhibitor, maybe work on those tier 2 turrets to accelerate that gold lead once again. But for JDG, they're just doing everything right. This is the dive in that mid lane. It's a good buffer by Light, yes, but he leaves himself out in the lurch. Gets flashed on by Xiaoxu, who, as a Cassante, we all know can easily 1v1 AD carries, and you know that Light, as soon as he spots Scout there, he knows that his retreat path that way isn't possible, and even though he tries to pen himself into the red buff, maybe get one more arcane shift, it's just not possible. He goes down, and now Xiaohu, he takes about half his HP, but he'll be able to regen that back up.
And right now, the Rift is JDG's oyster. They can do whatever they want across the map. They're going to break open this bot lane tier 2, try to sync up both the waves in bot and mid to start getting into the inhibitors, getting into the base of Weibo Gaming for the second time in just a couple of hours. And after this Baron despawns, Rude, it's going to be the Soul, the Infernal Soul, up for JDG. It's a perfect opportunity for them to match up these sequences really nicely if they're able to play this one out correctly, as it's just been a clinic from them here this game.
It's all about how they can look to close out this game, force it to game number 3 nice and easily. I mean, 10k gold lead almost at this point. It's not looking anywhere near competitive for Weibo. I do think this is just a case of dotting the I's and crossing the T's for JDG. I don't really see a way back into this game for Weibo. Their tools in terms of getting onto the backline are just so muted, and the way they've not shown it so far this game, I doubt it'll happen.
And Breathe just gets caught out before anything begins, but a really nice seismic shot from Xiaohu, who's going to be able to take down Zhuo. It's a 1-0 already for Weibo, but Peyz is still at full HP, still untouched, nearly taken down Breathe. Finally, the Feather Storm comes out, but it's going to be the Xin Zhao eventually dropping. Shun has the Guardian Angel pop, but look at what Peyz is able to do. Tibbers comes out from Scout, and here comes Peyz. He takes down Light. He takes down everybody. A quadra kill for the Xayah, and only Xiaohu remains.
And Xiaohu falls as well. Another massive fight from the JDG AD carry. 10-0 and 9. Game number 2 firmly in their sights.
That was the best shot that Weibo were going to have all game, but they forgot about one person, the single biggest threat on JDG's side all season long, and his name is Peyz. Quadra kill to end the game, and a quadra kill to send JD Gaming to match point over Weibo.
And talk about playing to the limits, Grapes. This guy was probably 10, 15 HP. He finds just the right amount of damage, spacing just appropriately so the Renekton can't get on top. So there's no Karma Q to take him down, so that the Ezreal doesn't quite have enough damage in the tank to finish off that job. But JDG sending themselves to 2-0 off the back of, once again, another flawless performance from Peyz. This is the AD carry that they signed up for. This is who we were expecting to see come through, and this is the kind of performance we've been hoping and expecting to see.
And it starts from minute 1, right, where Peyz is able to get that first blood.
Yeah.
Sure, he was punished heavily in the laning phase, but that was going to happen anyway. Just the ability for JDG to identify their win condition and just fully go all in onto it worked out in the end here for their team as they go up 2-0 over Weibo, a team that took them down in the playoffs just a split ago. And man, have to give some big credit to Peyz right there. Would not be surprised for him to win that player of the game for the second time in a row.
And I think that up until that point, it was probably arguable between him and Xun, to be honest, because I think that the Vi was pretty revolutionary in the early game to try and make things happen. But I mean, that final team fight, it looked like it could have been very much lost, and until Peyz stepped up and did pretty much everything right in that final fight, it really wasn't looking too good for them. But I think that might just swing it in his favor. Again, Goliath performance, and then this is the level of player who was, you know, so frequently popping off high highs and really making sure that there was nothing to be scared about. And something that we've missed from him in this split is where he's been able to be consistent but not have those pop-offs. That right there was the pop-off. We were talking this entire game about the fact that he is the linchpin for this composition, that he was the part of this composition that needed to thrive, and the second that Weibo thought they had a chance was the second that Peyz popped off.
And pop off he did. I mean, it was that big fight around the Dragons a couple of times where he was able to just outplay whatever Light was able to offer on that Ezreal. And you got to give some big credit to Xiaoxu as well. This entire series, but namely in that second game on the Cassante, he was able to really set up his team nicely, and actually, you know, kind of carry some fights himself throughout that game. A player that was in Group Nirvana just a split ago and now is delivering in the biggest moments in the LPL playoffs.
Yeah, and you know, we're looking at what it means for JDG now going in, and I think that they need to keep a level head. They've been here before, right? Not too long ago, in fact, where they 2-0 up and where they in a position where it looked like, actually, we can probably just come away with a pretty convincing series. And you know, they weren't able to finish that off. They weren't quite able to find the series win. BLG sent them down here for a reason. I mean, you can see just looking at these stats that actually the damage that's being done is largely similar, and that, you know, in the mid lane, Xiaohu pumping out more damage than Scout. Peyz barely able to do more than Xiaohu was in this game, but it's in those crucial moments when that damage comes through that ends up being important. I'm just going to keep on going. I don't know if Grapes is despawned or hopefully not having too many internet issues. Hopefully we can get him back and resurrected into this one nice and quickly, because he'd be loving to get a hang on all of these highlights as well. And I imagine that for the most part here, it is just going to be a highlight reel of Peyz popping off. And I think that Ghost is such an undervalued summoner spell, right? So much in 2025 we've seen Barrier become that apex spell for the most part is for AD carries down on that bot side, but I think that this game is a real showcase for why hypercarries in particular can look to take that ghost and why they can look to make it work. This fight, though, just such a close one on a knife's edge, where if one thing goes slightly different, odds are that Weibo are coming out of this one with a massive lead, and they're the ones who are probably able to come out on top. At any given moment here, you don't know who's going to win this fight. It's still very close. If one extra Mystic shot hits, if one extra, spell lands from Talia, this fight could be completely different. The work from Xiaohu here to go onto his worked ground to make sure that he has the mana to cast these spells, it's all the right heads-up play, but unfortunately just not quite enough. And unfortunately here, that the pre-setup by JDG that was put down was really well done, and Weibo ultimately they do end up paying the price for that. We are missing out. We got a PC restart. Word is that Grapes got to restart his whole PC, so I apologise for the solo show. Hopefully we'll be back in time for us for when we head into game number 3, though. And we just get to keep on running through and making sure that we get to see the high highs that JDG were looking for. Look at this triple and tofu strike here from Xiaohu. And the setup, the team coordination from JDG just seems to be on another level here today. And I mean, going into game number 3, I don't know what I'm looking for from Weibo, what I hope to see from them. But so far, they've had 2 compositions that have required very, very specific executions that just haven't really been showcased. I need to see them do something a little bit different in game number 3, where they either pick a similar comp and actually make something happen, or where they let their team fighting speak for itself, where we see them play for this death ball, play for a 5 versus 5 and their ability to play later on. This is the final team fight, though. We should honestly all just sit back and marvel at Peyz in this team fight. Look at what it is that he does. I mean, as soon as he flashes forward, there's a QE onto Crisp, which may go a little bit under the radar, but constantly just weaving in these quick spells as he goes forward. Q's onto Crisp here, which picks him up. Manages to pull another feather back through Peyz. It's just all perfect from the JDG AD carry, and that's really all that we can speak of. That's all that we can say in this position, as it really just does all look amazing. And that he's the player to do this for JDG feels really reminiscent of what we were hoping for from this composition of players going in, where we know that this entire year has been about Peyz. It's been about him stepping up and having these massive clutch performances when it matters the most. They've been swapping the pieces around him. Xiaoxu finally feels like a point in that top lane that has been able to join this team and make the most of that. Zhuo, in this series, he's doing enough to benefit Peyz, and maybe that's all that it matters, because Chris hasn't really been a part of this game, and I think as we look at the MVP for this one, we won't really be too surprised by its result. Again, another flawless performance from the AD carry. I'd be surprised if it's anybody else. And that's not, I am, like I say, gonna call it, I am surprised. Xiaoxu here taking it on the Cassante, but it's not unfounded. It's definitely not unfounded here. A very solid performance from the Cassante in the top lane. Multiple massive knockups in these crucial team fights, so not necessarily that Peyz has got robbed, but Xiaoxu probably deserves that. And with that, everybody, we're going to round out game number 2. I'll be back. Hopefully, Grapes will be back for game number 3. We have got the finale, hopefully for JDG, hopefully for Weibo. We've got game number 3 of a long reverse sweep in order off the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.